family disappeared, abandoned mansion with everything left behind. How weird would it be to have someone you know vanish from the face of the earth, leaving absolutely no explanation why? Though this scenario mostly occurs in movies and novels, we're here to let you know that there is one very prominent incident as such that has taken place. And in today's episode of Lord Luxury, we're not talking about the disappearance of a single person alone. This is the vanishment of an entire family. Are you curious to find out more? Stick with us till the end of the video as we unravel to you the mysteries behind this unrealistic incident. Without further ado, let's get right into the deets. Into the villages of the Czech Republic, a couple of researchers discovered something completely strange. A large mansion was found deserted with nobody inside. But here's the catch. Though the house remains lonely, it seems as if the valuable possessions of the members of the family who lived there were untouched. They just lie in the house, rusting and getting covered up in piles of dust. Who in their right mind would leave an entire home with all their belongings and possessions and choose to never return? This is a question anyone would ponder upon. While most of the other buildings surrounding the mansion look more advanced and updated, this particular house looks like one from the olden days. A huge historical masterpiece indeed. Huge enough to even come under the category of castles. At a single glance, this place does not give the impression of a deserted home. But as you make your way away from the entrance and towards the other sides of the building, you'll notice trees and vines uncontrollably growing onto the walls and roofs of the house. The land surrounding the area looks like a park that was once owned by the people of the villa, yet left neglected for a long period of time. It's hard to make your way into the house through all these wild plants growing around the place. But some very smart researchers were well able to find it and get a good look at the place. Though the house started to look like a deserted one, the researchers couldn't confirm whether their speculations were true or not until they came across the remains of a dead wolf in one of the sheds of the villa. No sensible owner would leave a dead wolf to rot inside their home. This was when their speculation seemed solid. The house was an abandoned one. As the explorers made their way inside the house through windows and broken doors, they observed that the house was maintained so well. Though it remained covered in dust, it looked like it was kept well by the owners. The house also gives us a good look into the past, which was perhaps the time the owners lived there. The dust, dirt, and cobwebs covering the entire place give us more clues to the puzzle that the owners were away for way too long. The fur of animals, wild hunt, and even warthogs and various birds were kept as prized possessions of the family's hunting seasons. It seems as if they had a deep liking for hunting. Portraits of several of the inhabitants are seen hung upon the walls, yet identifying the actual inhabitants was almost impossible. One thing that made sense for sure was the fact that this wasn't just a family of parents and kids. The mansion housed several families of the same ancestors over centuries together. The design in which the house is constructed suggests that it goes way back into the medieval period. What we see today is just a bit of renovation here and there as it was passed from one heir to another. With a little research here and there, it was evident that the residents of the manor belonged to groups of knights, esquires, and baronets, or simply the lower class aristocrats. With the end of World War II, the Soviet Union gained control over the land, including this very manor. This mansion was then put under state control, which deprived the owners of their land, house, and property. The mansion was then used to house officials, a practice common in the earlier days, but lack of money forced the officials to move out to a more affordable place with lesser requirements. The house was then deserted for the first time, before the entire mansion would crumble into dust. In the late 1960s, the house was brought back to life. This time the house was used to provide a home for an organization of sisters. For this reason, parts of the house were thoroughly reconstructed and made fit for them to reside. But over the course of a few more decades, their real owners claimed back their ownership, which left the nuns with no other option than to move out. this is the part where things get even trickier. There is nearly no solid trace left behind to judge what took place for all the residents to vanish. What's even more baffling is the fact that in the garage lies a large SUV from not many years ago. Such a large possession being left unwanted doesn't make any sense. It only makes us assume that the worst has happened to the owners of this particular mansion. Even the possibility of the owners running away is almost ruled out since they left their vehicle behind. The calendars and journals lying around the place showed various dates. Some were all the way back from the early 2000s, some from 10 to 12 years ago. One would come to the conclusion that it was almost a decade ago that the people abandoned the place. Shelves and cupboards were still strangely filled with clothes, accessories, and belongings of the former residents. One very interesting clue the explorers observed was that some of the rooms were numbered. This gives the idea that the place was used as a boarding home of some sort, but as we get a better look into the place, it becomes clearer that the place looks like more of a nursing home to shelter and accommodate elderly folk. Crutches and other equipment for the elderly or ill were found lying around. One room in particular would catch your attention. This room looked like no other room in the mansion. This was surely the most plundered and messy room among all the others in the manor. The room also had some very peculiar and gripping materials lying around here and there. The entire room looked like it was searched through inside and out. Books were scattered all over the place. Weird items like herbariums were found. There were even pairs of skiing gear lying around that looked nearly brand new. But here's what makes this room even more interesting. Upon the walls of this room, a certificate was found to be framed. This certificate held details of the one who is probably the owner of the mansion. A bit of detailed exploration through the house suggested that he was a man of science. Several scientific objects like microscopes and other scientific equipment were discovered as well, which makes the occupation of that person a bit clearer. The equipment doesn't look damaged at all. It's a surprise no one has even come for them yet. Next to the equipment, you'll find a jar. This jar is filled with some sort of liquid chemical and an actual snake. The chemical was probably the scientist's idea of keeping the dead snake's body intact. The house is filled with several little dorms and necessary furniture and requirements. Take a good look at the clothing and footwear seen on the shelves. Items that look nearly brand new are found lying covered in heaps of dust and tangles of cobwebs. Belongings of both men and women and even children surrounded the different chambers of the house. Pubs inside the house are filled with beverages that date back to several years ago, as well as those of the more recent times. It's fascinating to see how organized the kitchen looks. Spices kept in each bottle are labeled by name and fill up to almost the brim of the bottles. This could possibly mean the disappearance of the residents was a rather sudden or unexpected one. But the mansion is already showing several signs of degradation. The stench of dirt fills the place. Cracks, creases, and holes are found in every nook and corner of the house. Prolonged negligence has permitted the growth of wild plants, mosses, and molds throughout the house. The sudden vanishment of the residents meant that plenty of their food was left to rot away in their absence. But the mice that filled the place took care of that part. The mice and vermin that inhabit the place are probably some of the luckiest in the world. They scavenge through the house with absolutely no fear of predators or danger. They live their life with no hindrance and an abundance of food to feed on. But as the number of rodents increases, it becomes obvious that the place is slowly undergoing destruction. But then again, the house leaves us with no solid reasoning as to why it is left abandoned like this. We can only come up with the scenarios with the traces left behind. You never really know what happened, but this gives us room to imagine what could have happened. What are your opinions of the place? Can you think of reasons why the place is left as it is? We will probably never know. Thanks for watching this video, and until next time, folks.